Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Real Talk New Jersey Real Estate Insights. I'm your host, Richard Bolt, and today we're taking a dive into what South Jersey buyers need to know right now. We're joined by the incredible David Marcantuno from Keller Williams Hometown Realty, a multi-time five-star award winner and a trusted expert in the market. All right, welcome, David. We're so honored to have you here with us as a top agent in the area. Looking forward to hearing your insight. So, wanted to start off with, what inspired you to get started in the real estate world?
So, growing up, my parents were in real estate for big chunks of time. My cousin or my uncle was the broker that my parents worked at, and his son got into real estate right out of high school. We're like both 55-ish, 54 to 55. So he's been in it for 30 some years now.
Yep. I
got into EMS and had a career as a paramedic. I always planned on coming back to real estate. I watched the real estate shows. I like doing construction work. I did that on the side a lot. So I would watch all these shows on HGTV, and I always look forward to the day where I'd be retired and have a nice big pension and be able to sell houses and not worry so much about earning the commissions, but, doing something fun in retirement.
Yeah.
I ended up hurting my back and my neck, carrying, too many big people too many times. And after a second anterior cervical fusion, they told me you really just can't do this work anymore.
Yeah.
And that was in like 2008. So I worked part-time for a couple of years at an urgent care, and eventually got to the point where I felt good enough that I thought maybe I could try it. So I went and took the class in 2012 and started in the middle of 2012.
Okay.
I only planned on doing it part-time or taking it easy, but I'm a little competitive, so I see other people put there's the NJAR awards there, so I've got 11 years in a row.
Nice.
In the award, and it looks like I did bronze. Like my second year, 2013, I hit bronze.
Nice.
I saw people bragging about this stuff, and they're always posting, here's the lifting, here's the closing. And I like, just being from an athletic background, I want to win, I want to get in the game too. So even though I think I'm coming here to take it easy, I just, I see the people that are good. I kind of emulate some of the things they do. And I ask them, share with me what you're willing to share. And, a lot of people are willing to share. Just like I now share with newer people.
Yeah.
So I followed some of the things I learned from some of those people, and the last 7 or 8 years we've hit gold over, which is 12 million, but we've been averaging 15 million and 45 sales a year. Nice.
Yeah, that's an abundance mindset, and I think that bodes well for people.
That's funny you said that, because in real estate they're always asking you about goals.
Yeah.
And people have these specific goals. And I always just said, I want more.
Yep.
I want the next one, and I want the next one after that. And whatever I can get, I want it. I don't have a goal. I'm not going to be disappointed because I didn't reach a certain number. I'm not going to say a certain number is the only way to have success. I just want to do well and keep doing more.
Awesome. What are some of the key things you wish every first-time home buyer would know before starting their search?
Yeah, so I noticed a lot of first-time buyers have really good wish lists and all these things set that they want. And I think it would help them to learn that you don't get everything the first time. You got to start somewhere. And all the people that you're looking at that you wish you could be, they didn't start in that giant house. Yeah. They didn't have the in-ground pool on day one. You have to start somewhere. So you have to jump in the pool, find a house and start building equity.
Yep.
Stop building someone else's equity by paying rent.
Exactly.
Invest in yourself. It's not going to be perfect. You're not going to get everything on your list, but you're going to start building your own wealth.
Exactly. The average homeowner supposedly has a net worth of 40 times what the average renter in America does. So it's a
Crazy
huge
stat.
it's a huge difference. It's crazy. And it's not about timing the market. It's, get in, there's been very, very few blips where maybe you might have a little tiny correction for a couple of years like we did in the '08s and whatnot. That was a little bit of a crazy time, but then it bounced right back up. So unless you're, in it for the short term, you're only planning on being there a year or two. Like if you're going to live there, put some roots in there and, stay for at least 5-7 years, maybe longer, you're going to make out well. So.
Yeah. I've talked to lots of, especially the new buyers about that. So what I've been telling people is when they think they're going to time the market, I say, let's do your family tree. Go back to whoever came to America first, right?
Yep.
In my case, it was great-grandparents. So I know what my great-grandparents paid, grandparents paid, dad paid, I paid, and my daughter just bought a house, right?
Yeah.
So great-grandparents were like $3,000 for their Philadelphia row house.
Yeah.
My grandparents paid $13,000 for their first home.
Yep.
My parents paid it's like 80 grand.
Mm-hmm.
Mine was 154 in 95.
Yep.
And my daughter in 2024 bought her starter home at 350.
Yep.
So tell me, if you think the next generation is going to be buying at a lower price, I want to know how that's going to happen. Because things aren't getting cheaper.
No, it's not.
They never
happen.
do. Every chart is like this. It might dip a little and then it goes back up.
Yeah.
Never in history has it gone down.
Gone down. Exactly.
Like,
it's not.
Like you mentioned, there's a blip here and there. And they're usually banking blips, not housing blips.
Yeah.
We had the .com bust of 2000.
Mm-hmm.
We had the banking bust of 08. We had the COVID shutdown of the whole world in 2020. Yeah. Every time something like that happened, we had a dip.
And then it took right off. Exactly.
So you're just waiting to pay more, man. Marry the house. Take the rate, right?
Take the rate, exactly. Yeah. There was a study, there was a thing I saw on a webinar where if you waited for rates to drop, I think it was in 1971, for the next rate drop was 20 years later. So the house that was a $40,000 house was $160,000 house 20 years later. Yeah. And, just because you wanted to wait for a good rate and you threw out all that rent for all those years and didn't build any equity and any wealth for yourself. So
correct. Yeah. It's crazy. When I bought, the rates had dropped to 8.125. And
you were happy for that.
Before, we were thrilled. Yeah. Because it was just at 9.
Yeah. That's when I got in. That was our best rate. 9.
It was an excellent rate in the 90s.
Be like, here's your premium rate, 9.99. It's under double digits.
And I've refied 6 times during that boom before the '08 banking crisis. The rates were dropping. Yep. It was a different reason. It was because the government had loosened everything up and they said everyone deserves to own a house, even if they can't afford it. We found out the hard way that wasn't a great idea. So, you buy it, you make the payments, and then you refi when they come down.
Yep.
The other thing, another good thing that I tell, especially first-time buyers, when I bought my house, there was 2 houses we were buying from a builder. They were both spec models, not orders. Mm-hmm. And they had one that was a 3-bedroom, 1.5 car garage. So it was a garage door and a window width.
Yeah.
Right? The other house was a 4-bedroom, 2 full car garage, a couple hundred feet bigger. It's like a $10,000 difference.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest mistake I made, not buying the bigger house.
The bigger one.
Because it's silly to make a decision on $10,000 that's distributed over 30 years is $10 a month difference, or 20, whatever it was, $20 difference. But after it compounded over a few years, that house is worth a lot more than mine.
Yep.
And when you're a first time buyer, when you're buying, you're at a lower wage. You shouldn't look at it as that's basically your minimum wage.
Yeah.
You're going to keep getting raises or potentially move to a better job.
Better job. Yeah.
Now, granted, occasionally someone gets laid off, something bad happens, but you can't live your life based on something might happen to me.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll never get anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. How do you help your buyers prepare for multiple offer situations, especially in
It's tough because especially the first timers have it the hardest because you're often competing with people that are putting a lot more down or have a lot more experience, so they're not asking for as much from the seller.
Yep.
So we do warn them ahead of time, so at least they know the potential's there. They're not putting in an offer all excited and then being told, oh, by the way, 10 people bid and 6 of them were higher and they're waiving inspections, Yeah. So we do prep them. I tell people all the time, the seller is not your enemy. They're not the ones that, because a buyer always will ask, will the seller negotiate? Will the seller do this? Will the seller do that? And I try to educate them that it's the competing buyers that are going to dictate what the seller's willing to do.
Yeah.
If you're the only bidder, I'll bet, yes, seller will negotiate all that stuff. If we're competing against other bidders, they're the ones you have to be better than. You don't have to impress the seller.
Yep.
You have to beat the other bidder.
The competition. Yeah.
And if they're waiving inspections or paying cash, it's hard to compete.
Yep.
You just sometimes you're the bug, sometimes you're the windshield. Sometimes you just can't beat that other person, right? Yeah. But always put your best foot forward.
Yep.
Let's figure out what your down payment is, what your flexibility is with extra cash. If the appraisal doesn't come in where we need it, if we're going over, I go through showings with them and try to point out everything I see that might be wrong, so that when they do want to bid, they already know. They're not assuming perfection and disappointed later. Yeah. We pointed out like a bunch of stuff. So if you love the house with all the warts, then we're going for it.
Yep. And I always tell my buyers that, you only have to find one house. It's not like you're trying to buy 10 houses, unless you're an investor buying a bunch of houses, but most of them are, you just got to get that one. Like you just got to keep your head up and keep looking and put your best foot forward and, try to find the one that works. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. What kind of advice do you give for your sellers in order to get the top value for their house?
The sellers, and a lot of them don't listen. I'm dealing with one now that everything I said is coming true. So I'll give you a couple examples. I try to tell them, let's do an inspection before you list it. Yep. Nobody wants to pay for that. If you have a septic and a well, let's do a mini inspection and make sure you're not needing a new septic, because they take months and they cost $25,000 to $35,000 to do it. Right.
Yeah.
I ask them to try to stop looking at it like your home and look at it more like an asset. And how do I get the most out of my asset? And you can take it either way. You can think like a flipper. Let's go through it and make some improvements and we'll sell it for even more. Or you can say, I want to do minimalist. Just clean it up as best you can. Maybe paint the front door. Try to give them a good first impression walking up.
Yep.
Clutter so they can walk through and feel the space. Nowadays, it's changing a little bit because some of them are starting to have reductions and staying on the market a little longer. So we do a lot more talking about the values because everybody thinks every house that they own is better than everyone else's. So the one that just sold at X, I should get 10,000 more.
Yep.
And then, you have to sometimes point out you don't have the same square footage. You don't have the in-ground pool that people want. You
didn't remodel the kitchen as recently.
Yep. Close all the permits. Make sure your permits are up to. Another big one is solar. Like these people are signing terrible solar leases. And they're now aging to the point where they're becoming a problem.
Yeah.
10 years, adding 3% every year. they reach the point where they, your electric costs more. Maybe consider paying that down.
Yep. I see that you've won multiple 5-star awards too. So
yeah,
I don't know if you can see my background, but I have as well.
I saw it right away.
Mm-hmm.
Of course. I used to have it on my signature as well, but I ended up changing it with more address stuff, and I got my own logo, so it got too busy. But yeah, I was always proud of that. Just because like someone has to actually see you and see that you're producing, and they at least do an interview to make sure you're legit and your stats are there. And then if some other people sign in and complain about you, maybe you won't get it. So I know their goal, of course, is to sell you something on top of it, but they'll issue you the award for free. So it's got some legitimacy to it.
Yeah. So, and I know I've had customers, do good reviews for me and then tell me that they got a phone call or whatnot, or they, got contacted about it. So,
yeah.
So
exactly. Yeah. So I use that stuff and, to my advantage when I can.
What do you do to stay top of mind? I hear that like there's a study that was done. It said like 78% of people would use the same realtor or loan officer that they used on the last transaction, but a lot of them just don't remember who it was.
All right. So I'll give you some examples. We mail these out.
Yep.
And I do geographical farming to a few neighborhoods, like the one I live in and a couple surrounding me. So our local team, the Phillies, gets delivered in the spring. We do it with the Eagles, the football team, in the fall. And I had Penn State and Temple and Alabama, because my daughter went to Alabama. But I got the 2 local college teams, so people love that stuff, July 4th, the geographical farming, we go out and we plant flags in front of everybody's mailbox, like a 1 foot tall, like a 8 by 10 inch or 6 by 8 inch flag. And it just has a little postcard on it that says, Happy 4th of July.
Nice.
Have a safe and happy 4th of July from your local realtor. No call to action. So it's not really an ad. It's just, here's a flag. Here's a schedule. Here's another schedule. All the past clients get them in mail.
Yeah.
Christmas time, I sent everybody a holiday card with $1 or $2 lottery tickets in it.
Yeah.
I get all kinds of engagement out of that. It costs a little bit,
Yeah. I've done that too before.
Yeah. So I'm spending, a couple $1,000 or so for $502 tickets, plus the mailing, plus the time my assistant has to spend putting it all together.
Yep.
But I get texts and calls like, I didn't win this year, but thanks for remembering, or I won $10. I got 100. Eventually, if somebody wins 10 grand, then I think it's going to cement me in, as the hero. Right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
We do like a food drive. Sometimes some years we do Toys for Tots.
Okay.
So we do stay in touch with everybody on our list.
Nice.
And a few neighborhoods. We're touching everybody in the neighborhood like 5 times a year.
Awesome.
We do a nosy neighbor. At the end of the year, we mail out. I wish I had one here to show you, but it's like just 8.5 by 11 paper that'll have little like a message from me, and then all the houses, like the 40 some houses, will be on both sides.
Yeah. With
the price in the town and a picture of the. And that's another, like, people look at that and they're like, oh, there's my house. There's mine. That's the one I sold.
Yep. Awesome.
Just stay in touch with them. And I try to tell them, call me for anything. So we're always helping people with contractors and repairing things after the fact.
Yep.
One that I just closed 2 weeks ago, he has my contractor there doing a finished basement. So we're talking and they're all excited about the work, so you kind of stay engaged with your people. Absolutely. And they start calling you with questions.
Yeah. I try to reach out to my database 4 times a year by phone, emails, letters. Yeah.
Yeah. Stay in touch with them, and they're less likely to stray or be distracted by someone else coming in.
Yeah, I have people, they send me the crazy letters because I get them too. Sometimes it's like, oh, here's your 4% interest rate. And I'm like, yeah. Do you see on the bottom where it says it's going to cost you 3 points? And
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
$12,000 to get a 5.25% rate. And like, you're going to save $100 and you're going to pay 12 grand to do it. So yeah, that's a great deal. Not so much. So what kind of trends are you seeing now in South Jersey?
I don't know that there really is a trend right now because it's kind of jumbled.
Okay.
I just listed a house in Woolwich that in a pre-planned neighborhood.
Mm.
So it's like a couple thousand houses, or at least many hundreds, same size ish, same features. So very easy to comp out, right? You would think.
Yeah.
I comped this house out, and there's 8 houses I find that are very good comps. 3 of them had price reductions on the market before they sold. 3 of them sold over ask. 2 of them sold for ask price, all within a relatively narrow, say 650 to 720 range.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the trend?
Yeah. Wow. That's a tough one.
Yeah, there isn't one because it's like so individual right now.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't want to pay the rate, and if they're not finding perfection, they're in and they're out. They're in and they're out. The people that have to move, a divorce, you have too many kids and don't have the right bedrooms.
Yeah.
Whatever. They have to muddle through it. So
life changes.
Through. Yep. Yeah, and they might outbid someone else on a house because they have to.
Yeah.
People that are more than happy to wait.
Yep.
We're going to bid a little lower. So like some houses are getting bid up. Some of them are getting no love. It's strange. It's a bumpy time right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually had a client recently paid, went over, and then I'm starting to see some houses in the neighborhood, and I'm getting notifications, and I'm like, this one went down. Dropping. This one went down.
Yeah.
What's going on? So I don't know.
So you tell me what's going on.
I don't know.
It's almost like all individual decisions. It's not really a trend.
If you could give your buyers one golden rule to follow during their search, what would it be?
Goal. I think it's what I already said. And it's kind of the same line. It's, you can't expect perfection, but you have to start somewhere.
Yeah. Set realistic expectations, and sometimes you got to make some sacrifices. You have to
be willing to compromise somewhere.
Yeah. You wanted a 2-car garage and 3 bathrooms, and maybe your budget only affords a 1-car garage and 2 bathrooms. So
maybe you start with the smaller one.
Yep.
But we do have to often warn people because they'll get into it thinking, oh, well, I'll just add an addition. And I'm like, wait a minute. You'd be shocked by how much that will cost you today. So it's more like you need to decide, can I live with this for a couple of years?
Yep.
Because when you make those payments, you're paying interest to the bank, but then you're paying the rest back to yourself.
Yeah.
You're not paying rent.
Yep.
Just paying for the money.
Yeah.
The rest of it's yours. So stay for a couple of years. Pay an extra $100 a month, because they're taking mostly interest the first 5 years, and get ahead and then trade up.
Yeah.
Don't look at it as this is going to be the perfect house. I'm going to make it perfect.
Yep.
It's not the best angle.
I had a client not that long ago. They had bought a house. I want to say I helped them buy that house in 2019. So it was 5 years later. It was last year, towards the end of the year. They sold it for more than double what they bought for it. The rate on the new house was, quite a bit higher. But because they had so much equity in the house, they were able to pay like everything else that they had, all their other debt, car loans, everything else got paid.
They're paying 20% on a credit card or 9% on a car.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And paid off everything. So like their overall monthly expenses actually were going down, even though they were moving into a bigger, nicer house,
And they're earning more equity now.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, because if your house is appreciating by say 5% a year, and you have a
5% of a bigger number is more.
Yep, exactly.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. It's been a great interview. Enjoyed having you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
How will people reach out to you, David?
So our website is www.marcantuno.realtor.
Okay.
So it's not .com. It's my last name, .realtor. They can call me on a cell anytime, 610-220-9452. We cover all of South Jersey, and we'd love to hear from you.
Awesome.
Our office is in Woolwich. Stop in the office in Woolwich if you wish.
Awesome. Well, it's been great.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thanks, David. I'll talk to you soon.
Have a great night.
All right. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.